Well, hey everyone, this is Chris DiFurio with Keys to the Shop. Welcome to another edition of Shift Break. Today's episode is brought to you by La Marzocco. La Marzocco, of course, you know the name. It's a household name in specialty coffee because for almost 100 years now, La Marzocco has been outfitting coffee shops like yours with some of the most dependable, beautiful, and innovative espresso machines on the planet. I've always loved working on and recommending the Linea PB as an example of a great espresso machine, the classic style and dependability of the Linea Classic, along with the upgraded technology of today to allow baristas the ultimate control over their espresso. That is just one example of many different kinds of espresso machines that La Marzocco has created to fit your cafe perfectly. Reach out to them at lamarzocco.usa.com for more information, and better yet, go email them, info@lamarzocco.usa.com. One of their salespeople will help you select the right machine for your cafe. Again, info@lamarzocco.usa.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Espressly. Espressly is all about creating custom branded mobile apps for your coffee bar to offer your customers a seamless experience in mobile ordering that is not only convenient, but it's also your brand. And you don't share that real estate on the phone with any other coffee shop. There's no recommendations for other coffee shops on the app. It's just you, your menu, your colors, your logo, everything. And it integrates fully with Square. You can use the loyalty program in Square because that also is able to be switched on in the app. And best yet, there's no setup or development fees when you work with Espressly. So go ahead and reach out to them, espressly.co, and have them get started on your app today. Again, that's over at espressly.co. Okay, everyone. Well, today I wanted to talk to people who are hiring as well as those who are looking to be hired. I've covered this subject a little bit on the show before, and I wanted to just focus in here as the new year approaches. I think a lot of us are looking to make changes either in where we're working and the trajectory of our careers, or we are looking to make changes in terms of the makeup of our staff because maybe we have decided that the current staff that we have, we made some compromises. We definitely tried to just get bodies behind the counter, as weird as that sounds. But I talk to people all the time who say, the culture's not where we want it to be. And then there are people who work in coffee bars who are saying, this is not where I want to be. And I need to advance my career, but I don't feel like I'm able to do it here. So I want to talk to both groups here, okay? The first group is going to be the people who are hiring. I'm not going to rehash all of the things that I've talked about when it comes to hiring, but I will link in the show notes. Again, strongly recommend you go to the show notes, look at the recommended episodes. It is a path of further education related to the topic that we talk about. Every episode, we have these show notes for a reason. And so hopefully you find that helpful and it helps you curate your learning on this topic. But anyway, the one thing I would always say to my clients is that when you're looking to hire, you should not only be hiring people who have values similar to your business's values, and that those values have been proven over the course of their life in different experiences that they've had, whether in work or otherwise. Again, in other words, you want somebody who has actually practiced successfully the very things that you are hiring them to do professionally. And therefore, you have a better chance of somebody actually performing the role really well. When I say values, I mean not values like you both love coffee and you love people and that's it. That's ridiculous. Everyone says it. It's very trite. It may be true, but we're talking about very specific values that are proven in actions. So you have to have a set of values already written out that says this particular value is important to us, and here is how we like to see that executed on the bar in the afternoon, in the morning, when we're serving food, when we're bussing tables, when we're cleaning bathrooms. These things have to be practical. They have to be detailed. So you know what it is you're looking for. If you don't have the details of your values and what it looks like to have those values play out in your business, you have no idea what to look for when it comes to an employee. You're just hoping. And that's really not good enough. And then we end up with some kind of regret later on. So you have to look for those things, but you also, and again, this is something when I'm doing consulting, I say, look, hire people who you believe can manage this coffee shop, even if you're not hiring for a manager. Okay, so this is going back to something we had on episode 296, a guest, David Castillo of Go Get 'em Tiger, the trainer over at Go Get 'em Tiger. And that holistic barista training was this idea of professional development beyond just the barista skills of making coffee, being a coffee expert. It's talking about developing people to be managers. And that is right in line where I will tell people to go, which is if you want to hire somebody, don't hire them because they barely fit the need that you have. Hire them because you can tell that this person is potentially somebody who you could trust the entire store to, and somebody who you can actually trust to manage other people and to lead other people. And the only way that that can happen is if you recognize in that person a certain maturity, a sense of responsibility, self-motivation, and security about themselves. Again, that has been developed over the course of their life as a pursuit of their own and from the investment of other people. So that's what you need to be looking for. And I would challenge you in 2024, whenever you hire somebody, raise your hiring standards. We talk about raising your price in terms of what your cost of goods are. Things are getting more expensive. Inflation is running amok. So you need to raise your prices. But we also need to raise our standards and not lower them because of urgency. Okay. So get the right people with capacity, that with proven character and the practice of leadership, self-motivation, and executing on values that resonate with your business. Now, that is a recommendation to the owners and managers and hiring managers and things like that. Now, speaking to you who are baristas and want to make a move into your career, let's say that you're trying to get to another job or you're trying to just make the most of where you are. I want to talk about the most important qualities that you can have as a barista, the most useful barista skills. Okay, so let's get out of the way the idea that barista skill is the number one skill I think you need to have related to coffee is the skill of your ability to dial in the coffee according to taste. And that is something that no matter if you use super automatic espresso machines or manual espresso machines, you're going to need to make the final decision of the coffee based on the way you taste coffee. And your ability to make a decision about a coffee based on taste is going to be determined by whether or not you are focused on people or you're just focused on the coffee. Now, we talked about this before when it comes to having reasonable tolerances. I think a mature barista will allow for certain tolerances and ranges of extraction percentages and times and weights and things like that because they see the bigger picture, because they're not hyper focused on one singular data point when it comes to what successful coffee shops look like. They don't just focus on the espresso machine, but they utilize their ability to taste and to dial things in and use the tools that they have available to them to serve the greater need. And that kind of coffee nerd default that a barista might have, which pushes away other aspects of the experience, is balanced when you're actually dialing in with reasonable tolerances and fully understanding that what you're doing is you're serving something much bigger than just the coffee itself. Unless you are set up this way by your company, you can't just be a specialist in espresso or coffee science and extraction and expect to make it very far in your coffee career. The future of coffee bars is lean teams. We see this increasingly when people are trying to cut down on labor costs by increasing the capacity of the people that they do have. Now, we would always encourage anybody who's doing that, pay your people more when you give them more to do. Get that lean team of people, very productive, very resourced with the tools, knowledge, information, coaching, training, etc., and finances to thrive in that role. Now, if that is where things are going, and I think that is the case, certainly is something I recommend to people, then you are not going to just be a specialist in, latte art or coffee. You have to be more of a hospitality generalist. You have to be flexible. You have to have those leadership skills. You have to lead yourself. You cannot look to the company to take care of you in total. You have to self-motivate, self-manage, and you've got to have an others-focused mindset and a certain degree of personal excellence that you carry with you from job to job. Part of the reason why baristas get so upset, and generally professionals all over get so upset, is because they've conflated employment with personality or meaning and with fulfilling our deep emotional needs. And that is not sustainable. And so as you look to create paths for yourself, you need to make sure that you're developing a well-rounded set of skills as a generalist in hospitality that over time will get you to the point where you could be seen as having the skills of a specialist in all of those areas as you hone those things. And what those skills really are things like having an others-focused mindset, keeping that big picture in mind and developing the ability to have a passion for executing excellence in a detailed way over the way that you greet people, the way that you pay attention during a guest's stay, the way that you clean things, the way that you communicate and follow through and take notes on things that happen during the day. And this is just another way of saying you need to take ownership over your career and have a set of personal values and a standard for personal excellence that actually exceeds the places that you work. And when you do work there, it might be seen as overperforming. It's just going to make you stronger in the next role. You're more likely to be seen. You're more likely to reinforce good habits like charitable assumption, big picture thinking, being mindful about your actions, having integrity with the things that you say you're going to do, that you actually do them. We always talk about how people get thrown into leadership roles and then they flounder in those roles. It's not just because bosses put people in those positions when they're not ready and they haven't invested into them. It's that those people often will have just waited around and done nothing to prepare themselves for any opportunity that might come their way. I don't think this is something that you can afford to do. None of us can. You need to prepare for the opportunities that might come your way. You need to start creating opportunities for yourself through preparation. Instead of saying, well, the company's never taught me anything about P&Ls or about spreadsheets. They haven't taught me anything about inventory. They haven't taught me anything about leadership or management. Well, guess what? If that's what you want, you can keep on blaming the boss. You can keep on blaming the company, but there are no excuses. I mean, hopefully this podcast has some resource regarding leadership and management, but outside of the podcast, there are probably millions of different places you could go to learn those very things. It's not inaccessible. It is completely accessible. And it's frustrating because you hear people talk about how, we need to be more transparent with our staff about, the way business works. Yes. Okay, great. I think as staff, have a little self-respect in that you don't have to wait for somebody to descend from on high and give you this access that you claim you're being denied. Now, maybe in relation to that specific business, but if you really want to learn how a small business works or how to get ahead in your career or learn leadership and management skills and all those things, you can do that if that's what you want. Will you be paid to do it? I think that's the big sticking point. Everybody at this point in coffee, I feel, has this chip on their shoulder that says, unless I'm going to get paid $2 or more an hour extra, I'm not going to take on more responsibility and I'm not going to develop new skills because my current job doesn't reward me for those skills. You will never get ahead and you will just accumulate for yourself a lot of sycophants, personal sycophants and followers and likes and stuff like that, but you're not going to accumulate skills. You're going to accumulate grievances, and that just does not pay the bills. So that means you need to be a learner. You need to be someone who pursues things. Even if you're not getting paid to learn about management and leadership, when the opportunity comes up, you're going to be ready. You're going to be more ready than anybody. And that preparation will pay off. But you can't just be waiting for it to be given to you. And you can't just be waiting for people to pay you to develop yourself. The fact is, if you work in a coffee bar right now and you're being paid to do so, you are working in an environment that is an amazing training ground for interpersonal skills, conflict resolution, self-management, leadership, others-focused service, skill development in coffee. You just have to apply yourself and structure it. And you just have to be mindful as you go through and intentional and not look to the company as the end all be all of your success. You're going to go through many different companies. And the stronger you can get with your personal excellence, your follow through, your integrity, your values, the more resilient you will become. And that is really going to set you up for success in the future. So, a little bit of a ramble, I guess, today for Shift Break. I hope that you got something from this today. These are things that I think I would have loved to have applied a little bit more in my career decades ago. And I hope that you take things from this talk to heart and that you apply them. Apply them consistently and see how much of a positive impact it actually makes. So thank you everyone once again for joining me. I hope you have an amazing new year. And as always, I will see you here next week on another edition of Shift Break, from keys to the shop.